Hi guys, so we're just going to fit the boot rubber.
It's all where we've welded all this along this lip and everything, and that rust. And we just, what we like to do is try to fit everything up as we go to make sure at the end of it, it's going to really look the goods and everything will fit and function and work the way it's supposed to. And that's just the way we like to do it. So we know it's going to be correct in the end. It's just how it is.
There'd be nothing worse than fitting you. Go and put all your panels on labour and they don't fit.
Especially on a big job like this one, it's been a full rest day. It's got to be really, really good when it's finished, and that's what we want. You don't go all run the race to just fall over at the end and not complete it. How's that on? Pretty good?
Yeah.
It's on good.
Make sure your rubbers are on really good too, because it's very important if you guys are doing one out there.
Especially with these new rubber kits, because they're not like the old stuff obviously, they haven't compressed down. Takes a while, after a couple of months after they've been on, they'll compress. Everything changes the way it sits or your alignment. So that's why it's really crucial when you're doing a rest day to do what we do. Put all your rubbers on, make sure everything's on, and try and get a good rubber kit. There's a few different ones out there. Some are not quite so good. This one seems fairly good. It's nice and pliable, not too hard. But yeah, the trick is put them on, make sure everything's sitting on right, and then the next thing we'll do is sit this boot lid back on, see how it shuts, and we'll check for alignment and everything. And then once we know it's right, we'll pull it off, and it's ready for paint. And we'll finish in around that boot edge. We'll sandblast all that in there, right around, and we'll prime it all, give it a rub, because this has all had rust repairs right around that lip. But that's why you can see why we do this, so we know in the end it's going to be the right fit up.
Alright, let's throw this boot lid on.
Yep.
Okay guys, so now we've fit the boot lid on, and we've just got to make sure with the adjustments, since we've taken everything off. So that's what Dad's doing now, just making sure that he's getting the adjustment right so it fits right.
It's crucial, you know, you got to spend sometimes quite a lot of time actually to make them sit nice, but it's all part of it. When the car's finished, all the alignment on the panels, it's so important to it all. It's nothing worse, you see cars that have been done and they've got terrible alignment. It's just a bad reflection of the work that's being done. Especially when you've spent a lot of effort and time to get the job right. You know, just for the sake of spending a couple more days around it to line everything up. It's what you want. Starting to sit on there. Come over a little bit more yet. So it feels right, it's right.
So if you guys are having a crack at doing this at home, make sure, just be careful of your edges when you're closing it. You can take all the paint off really quickly.
And you know, doing this now, with all these on, it's going to be the actual correct finish that you'll have when you when the car's done. A lot of people don't. They don't try to fit stuff up. They just repair it and paint it, and there you go. And then later on, you put all these bits on, all your trinkets and your hardware, and it kind of just doesn't sit right, and it ruins the whole job.
Yeah, especially after all the hours of rubbing, it can be a bit of a letdown.
Put it this way, guys. I'd hate it to get my car back, and you know, for the sake of the right finish, you'd be really well, you'd be pissed.
Yeah, you would be. So this can take hours sometimes to get it 100% right.
Back in the day when we used to do Porsche and stuff and Mercedes, they had to be what we call invisible repairs. Like you get a car that's had a big hit up the backside or whatever, once it's been repaired, and it's what the terminology in the trade is, like an invisible repair. No matter where you look around it or in it, you can't see that the thing's been done or repaired correctly. And that's, you know, when you're doing prestige and high quality restos, that's really what you expect. It's just how the job goes. And there, I can't really see it, but we've got a bench, a car aligner in under that cab, and that's what the big hit ones go on. And they're all pulled back to spec, and everything fits right. That's starting to line up a little bit. A little bit more come across.
Actually, it's looking good now too, the rear end. It's going to be a tough combi, that's for sure. I'm going to take off the left-hand doors. Dad's finished rubbing his side, so this prime coat now, we're just going to give it the last finish rub, but we're going to do it when they're off, because it's pretty much perfect now. So pretty much if you guys out there are working on any Commodores and you get stuck with your hinge pins on the doors, you can go and get a tool, and it's just called a door pin extractor tool. But that will save you so much time and hassle if you're trying to do it with, you know, without this tool. It can be a bit of a job. Yeah, so they're only cheap, like $45, or you might be able to shop around or something. So I'll use that, like the other side we were showing before, to get these doors off. And yeah, so anyway, we'll,
it's probably worth mentioning too, when the doors haven't really been off for a long time, those hinge pins get a bit rusty and they can be a bit of a mission sometimes.
Yeah, they can.
So what do you normally do when they're like that? Put a bit of WD in them and let them, or what, to get them off when they've been on a long time?
Yeah, just put some WD on them a couple of days before, work them a little bit, open your door up.
And the biggest hassle too, some of these old cars, when they've had door replacements and had accidents, they don't fit real good, yeah. And some of those pins can be a real bloody headache without this particular tool.
And the pins are in here, you might be able to have a look in here.
I'll give you a look at the actual pins, what we're talking about.
So yeah, that's your pins just there on your hinges. Unfortunately, they're not bolt-on, bolt-off hinges, so... But they are a good thing when you've got this tool, so you can just get the job done.
Back in the day, when they made these particular cars, they were what we call a welded hinge. And they're just straight on, hammer the pin in, and that's why you need these tools to get them out, because they're a bloody tight fit, and especially when they're, you know, a bit rusty inside, and they can be a real headache.
Okay guys, so just show them the pin does what it is. So there's your hinge and there's your pin. So yeah, like we were saying, they're not bolt on.
This particular one, we had to cut these hinges off because it was such a bad fit. But now we're at the stage where everything lines up and I've got it where we want it. So now we'll sandblast all this door opening and prime it, the same as we've done with the rest of the car, and it should be right to go for paint then.
Alright guys, so Dad's just finishing rubbing the boot lid and he's doing it on the car. Do you want to explain a little bit why you're rubbing it on the car?
Yeah, so what you do is when you bolt a panel on, but that's all been repaired, as you know, previous guys. But once you bolt this panel onto the car and you put the boot rubber or the seal on, and you click it down so it's shut, it actually changes the shape of that whole panel once it sits down. But we can repair that off to a certain degree. But once it goes on the car, and as I say, when it locks down, the whole shape changes. So what we like to do is get the thing really good prior to it going on. Then we put it on, we bolt it on, we line it up to where we're happy, all the boot line up, and we get the right heights, we adjust the boot lock down. And then the final rub is when it's on the car, because as I say, it changes the shape. So we can rub that to get the outside of that panel absolutely spot on. So once the colour goes on and the finish that we've done with that, that'll be absolutely like a sheet of glass. There won't be one imperfection in it. It'll look $1 million. And the thing is, with all that, despite all that, you've got to have a really good finish anyway. That thing has to fit up really, really good. And that's why you'll see as you go along with this build of this car, why we took a lot of time to line the back of that up to get it correct. Because once these panels go on and that car's finished, you have a little bit of variation, but it's not a hell of a lot. So if you haven't got that on correct, you're not really ever going to get that thing to fit up the way it should. Guys, so I'm going to show you today is we've got the left-hand doors off. Now this one, as you can see, it's another colour. It's been a replacement door. It's a left-hand front, but pretty chunky work. The old paint's just peeling off, as you can see everywhere. And we've straightened all the outer skin and the top frame of this door up. So now why we've taken them off is because, as we explained earlier, what we want to do is now sandblast all the inside of this door and get it ready for some primer.
So I've just finished sandblasting the front doors. I'll just show you before I put some primer on what they look like. So they look really good now. All the old paint's off them, the old primer. So yeah, now I'll put some epoxy primer on there. Alright guys, let's get stuck into it. So today I'm just rubbing back these doors. So I'm using some 400 at the moment. Sometimes it just depends on what we're using, like paint wise, if we're doing COB. So that's clear over base. So with base coats you might have to go to 500 or 600 grade paper. So it's very important now to rub out all the imperfections. So I'll rub out all the orange peel out of the primer and get it real nice and smooth and around the backs of the doors here. Yeah, it's time consuming to get it really nice, guys, but it's worth it. So if you get this part of the job really nice, this is where the paint job, it just shows how good it is. Like it'll come up really nice on the base coat and then your clear coat, and it just comes up really nice. So if you put the effort in at this part of the job, the rest of it's going to look really nice finished. So this is very important to rub it back correctly so the paint sticks to it. You can wet rub it or dry rub, but we like to dry rub. I suppose everybody's different.
Okay everyone, here we are on the boot lid. We're starting to come to a bit of an end with the final rub on this car, but we're at that stage now where all that work that we've put in, all the metal side of it to get it all really nice is really starting to pay off now. And the reason why I've got this bit of tape along here, because this quarter panel, it's finished now, that's had its final rub, that's actually ready for colour. So whilst we've got the boot lid on here and I'm just giving it its final cut back, I'll just put this bit of tape along here to protect that edge because I don't really want to cut into that final finish that I've got there now. But that, as you can see, the boot lid now is starting to shape up real good. And we always, when we do this final fit up and final rub on these panels, we always fit them up to the car for this final bit, because once it's finished, when you rub it, all the lines, body lines, and all the panel edges all align, and the gaps. And we, of course, we've under the boot, we've got the boot rubber on, or the boot seal, so it gives you the correct alignment or fit up when the car's finished. But at this stage, yeah, this is now on the, as I say, on the final rub. That's pre-rub, that little bit there, as you can see, and that's getting down to the final bit. A little bit more, not much. On the top of that boot, it'll be right for colour, but that hasn't been rubbed there, and this back of this beaver panel hasn't been. But as you can see, even in primer, it's starting to look pretty good. But that, yeah, that's why I've got the tape on there to protect that edge, because as we come across with the block, as we rub across, I don't want to cut into it and ruin the finish that I've got there now. So that's just a little hint as you go to protect things if you're going to have a crack at one of these yourself. But yeah, that's now starting to, as you can see, all line up everywhere, and it sits good across the back of the car and across the tail light area. The bottom of the boot lid's nice and level, and then you go down into where the bar fits across it, it's all nice and level. But before, it was pretty out of shape, nothing really lined up on it.